But what a catch. Odell Beckham would be impressed.
Bears just fighting a lot of that. Got daggers in. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
Brady goes for the deep shot. He's got a touchdown.
And Mahomes at bay.
The Tampa Bay Bucs, Super Bowl 55.
Hello and welcome to the Bucs Banter Podcast. I am your host, Collin. I am joined, as always, by Scott Capron and Bodan Yard. And today we are going to talk about the cowardly coaching results that resulted in catastrophe for the Bucs regarding their 23-17 loss in overtime. Before we get into that, though, I'm going to ask, if you are joining us for the first time, please make sure you click the subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. We need to build up that subscriber count. Follow us on Twitter. That's on the screen as well. And make sure you're checking out Bucs Game Day for all your written content. So before I let either of you two intervene, I want to start with the bad. And there's a lot of bad to talk about. In fact, it could take up the whole damn show. And it starts with coaching. Todd Bowles specifically is someone that I have been very fond of and very complimentary of as a defensive play caller. I love him in that role. But with this being his first head coaching opportunity since 2018, since he was fired by the Jets, he needs to be evaluated on a completely different set of criteria, obviously. And boy, oh boy, as the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I could not be more disappointed in Todd Bowles. And this isn't one of those like, I'm not mad, just disappointed situations. No. I'm mad and I'm disappointed. It's both. And, in this game versus the Browns, he had his incompetence on full display. It was unbelievable. I want to start with the first major issue with this game. And everyone knows about it, but we're going to revisit it anyway, just to really get that fire burning deep inside of us, which apparently Todd Bowles has none of himself. I don't know. So just over 12 minutes left in the game. Bucs are leading 17-10. They're kind of struggling their way to a victory, but doing what they need to do. That's at least how it felt. And they found themselves in a 4th and 2 situation on the Browns' 37-yard line, out of suck-ups range, especially on a shady weather day. So, ultimately, I guess in theory you could consider punting. I mean, Anyway, based on where they were, it would have required a damn near perfect punt in order to pin the Browns deep anyway, right? So as if we're back in 1999 or something, the Bucs took a delay of game penalty, tried to draw Cleveland offside, end up punting the ball for a net gain of 17 yards. So very limited advantage in field position. And more importantly, they don't have the ball and they don't have any points on the board, okay? And now, just regarding this decision to go for it, with it, of course, as football fans, as guys who cover the league, we talk about 4th down and a lack of balls that exist on a lot of coaches, and then the few coaches who do show a propensity to go for it in these situations. But the surrender index on Twitter, it's a tweet we all saw floating around. So this decision we're talking about here in the 4th quarter to punt the ball to gain 17 yards and give the Browns a chance, that decision to punt ranks in the 96th percentile of cowardly punts, let's call it cowardly, since 1999. So talking about 1999, so even compared to the days when overly conservative decisions were the norm, this particular decision still stands out. Pretty unbelievable.
I don't even know. I don't even know where to start, honestly. It was just first. Well, actually, you know where I want to start? I'm glad, Collin, and if everyone could see our text during the game, I was so happy that you were mad, and it was mad, not disappointing, and not any, because you're the biggest fan here, obviously, and there was no okay, they're still up 7 and they didn't turn the ball over, blah, blah, blah. No, you were pissed immediately, and so rightfully so. That punt surrender index, the way that it's referred to as cowardly, by the way, is hilarious, right? It shines such a funny light on how poor the decision was. Ultimate ball don't lie. He's punting it through the end zone at that point as well, right? There was never a doubt that they were going to pin him on the 3. That's just 100%. It's just, and here's the thing for me. It's okay, it's lack of balls, it's lack of gumption, trying to go out and win a game, which they haven't done like all year. It feels like just gone out and tried to play to win, coach to win. It's also just the wrong decision. It's just the wrong out of the three or let's say four options between going for it, kicking a field goal, and punting it. So three options, I guess. Sorry. It's the worst one. Like at least maybe you're at the fringe of suck-ups range, but at least there's value in being up 2 scores. There's some value in that, right? At least trying it. But doing this was just disgusting. It honestly made me sick to my stomach to watch, and knowing that we had to talk about it. And of course they lose the game after. And I have another point to make about the press. We could talk about the press conference after. So
yeah.
You just go ahead with the actual decision.
No, like, how do I put this? I don't want to like sound like I'm like trying to put.
We've had 3 days to think about it, and it's still just a loss for words. Like,
well, like, yeah, it was dumb. It just is dumb. Like it just didn't make any sense. But I think the thing about this, that's the saddest part about this is like where Collin started this off with is just like Todd Bowles is a good coach. He is actually a good defensive, like a very good coach. He is going to get murdered for his performance over this season. And like, if he ever gets another head coaching job, I don't know what fan base is going to be excited about that. Because it's just like, it's so blatantly obvious he has no idea what's going on from a game management perspective. Like,
right,
a 0% idea.
And I know, and you use the word coach there. And I know he's a football coach. He's a good coordinator. He's a good caller, and I'm sure he's a good actual coach, of coaching defensive players.
Dude, I think like even like. I think honestly, I think he's a good coach. I think they've installed things that are good. I think that the players are well prepared, but he has no idea how to execute a game plan or even have a game plan when things go wrong. He gets punched in the mouth and he has no idea what's going on. Like it's just like,
unfortunately, a huge part of the job is being able to make decisions on the fly. On the fly, things change.
But I think there's a skill set there of like he knows how to prepare a football team to play a football game. Like he's good at that, but he has no idea how to navigate the decisions of a football game, which is makes you a bad coach, I guess, right? Like, that makes you a bad coach, but like he has a very high skill level to coach football. And like,
it's the term we're just missing there to decipher the difference is a head coach.
That's it.
100%.
He's a good coach.
I think he's a good coach. I think he knows how to prepare his players. I think he's not like horrible at the job. It's just that he can't make the decisions. He just can't. He's just bad at that part of the game. Which
by definition then makes him a coordinator, which is totally fine. And for the 5 millionth time, I will say that a coordinator and a head coach are completely different jobs. And by no reason or stretch of the imagination should you be looking for the next best coordinator to be a head coach. It's just different, especially defensively, I find.
And especially now. I think especially now because guys are like the game theory of football has evolved so much from where the 90s were, where you could just have 2 bad decision makers but good coaches on either sideline and the game would play itself out. The best team would win. But now you can have a way better game manager on one sideline and a horrible game manager on the other sideline, and that team with the better game manager ends up winning because they're able to execute a game plan.
Now, I've always said, it's funny, like I've always said that I would rather my head coach be an offensive-minded coach if given the choice. Let's say it's Coach A versus Coach B, same resumes, whatever. However, in the case of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I was all aboard the Todd Bowles for head coach train, right? Like if it was between him and Leftwich, it wasn't even close for me. I wanted Todd Bowles. But what he has done is just really reinforced my lack of belief in defensive coaches, because the problem is, at least in Todd Bowles' case, I don't want to generalize, clearly he is so narrow-minded and like stuck in his train of thought that defense wins football games that he's unwilling to navigate from it, even in a scenario where you have the greatest quarterback of all time, a more than capable offensive line. Like, let's be real, like all the skill positions on offense, like you have to understand and objectively evaluate your team's strengths. Yes, the D's been playing good, but you're not winning games with defense. Offense will always trump what a defense is capable of doing, even if they execute perfectly.
Yes.
And
Because the
his
defense doesn't get the chance to
Yes.
put points on the board.
his inability to realize that, to me, is crippling and something I can't overlook anymore at this point, because this game is a microcosm of his general philosophy on these things. And we're past, like I referenced the year 1999, whatever. We're past 1999. That was a while ago, almost a quarter of a century, in fact.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so come on, bro, get with the times. Like, enough. Like, and Scott's like, do these guys not? What do they ask these guys in interviews? Like, in the unique case of Todd Bowles, I think he didn't have to interview, right? Because his interview was his job as a defensive coach and how he was in that locker room over the last few years, I guess. So, I mean,
I think
I think it was like Ben Solak over at the Ringer. It's not just the interview. These guys literally neglect their families, like stay in the facility for weeks at a time, like days at a time, and like do not see people that they care about. Game planning, try to figure out what they're like to get an edge, and then they get to a Sunday, and it's like not even a hard decision.
No,
what are you punting for? This isn't even a hard. This one wasn't even a hard one.
Bowden, oh my God, that's such a great point. That's so funny because I saw someone tweet about that too. Now I can't remember. It was like, hey man, maybe that's too many hours in the office, right?
Seriously.
Like maybe we should put a limit on it. And secondly, that's my thing. These aren't difficult decisions. These aren't 47% decisions. You know what I mean? Like they're just it's the combination of sackless, gutless football that they've been playing the entire year, by the way, which we can get into with just their play calling and the general vibe around the team.
we lost Scotty. He's muted there, folks.
Yeah, you got mute there.
Not sure that happened. I was enjoying the tangent. You back, big boy? Looks like you are.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, great. I was up firing on all cylinders here, probably. But anyways, it's the gutlessness of the decision and just the fact that it's the wrong decision. Put it all together, and it's indefensible, man. It was truly unbelievable to watch at the time. Unreal.
Yeah, and I got to give it to Scott Reynolds over at Pewter Report. Because during the post game, or sorry, not the post game, it was like whatever, a couple days after the press conference, he was grilling Todd Bowles. He was asking him. He came right out swinging, and he kind of asked him straight up, like, "Why didn't you go for that?" And he like referenced how the odds and everything was against it, and he like, it's like he made a daring decision. A daring conservative decision because it's so stupid and outdated. It's in fact daring, and like the minority of everyone would agree.
You know what's fun? That's the way they've been talking about Russell Wilson and like his inability to actually take shots downfield this year, is that he's almost like doing these performative checkdowns where he's like, oh yeah, Drew Brees like was so like celebrated for checking down on these on plays, and then like having a big play later on, he's like, oh, I can do it. I can do the Drew Brees thing on like every play. So like, even if I see a big shot, I'm going to perform. I'm just going to show them that I can do the check down and do the safe play here on football. It's like, don't like make the right play. Just do the right thing. That might be the best thing for your future here, Todd and Russ.
Yeah. And some of Bowles' comments though were also a big part of the problem to me. And what, like, so what Scott Reynolds said is like, why didn't you go for it? And he said, I thought our defense was playing good. I wanted to put the game in their hands or something, which is just stupid. I've already explained why. We don't need to get into that. We all agree. And then Scott Reynolds aptly follows it up with, so do you not trust your offense? And he said, no, I trust my offense. And it's like, well, dude,
how is that true?
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. And then anyway, so let's discuss the other end of the field. There's a limited amount of time, like under 2 minutes. The Bucs D the Browns find their way around just outside the red zone or whatever, right? Bucs hold them after a great play by Levante David. 4th and 10. All right. And in that situation, with how much time is on the clock, they're either going to get it and score, or they're going to get the first down and score, or they're not, and the game's over, right? So instead of calling a timeout, knowing it, well, in the off chance that they do score a touchdown here on this 4th and 10 play, we need to give Tom Brady some time to march back down the field and tie the game. Because if he had called a timeout after that play, let's pretend we knew what was going to happen. They score a fucking incredible, miraculous touchdown. couple people tried to rip on Devin White for that. That was utterly ridiculous. I thought
that's crazy.
Devin White played a great game. That's just a mythical catch by Njoku with his left
Also,
hand.
and that needs to be mentioned because it's just been talked about, like, oh yeah, Cleveland scored on 4th down. What a catch.
True.
Like,
Yeah.
so, and it was on 4th down from the 12. Like, and Njoku makes, I don't know, one of the 10 best catches of the season, like given the situation. It was incredible. So all that the Bucs fucked up, they had that play, stop that, and they win too, right? So I'm almost glad that it happened, because then it doesn't give the coaching staff an out, like we still won the game, or we put it in the defense's hands. The defense played so well. They played so well, but eventually, if you keep punting, keep giving the other team chances, this is what's going to happen. I just thought that the fact that Cleveland actually scored and Njoku made such a great play hasn't been discussed, but it needs to. So, Collin, thanks for mentioning that. Yeah.
100%. I'm glad you said that, man. For sure. It was a miraculous play. But as a coach, you need to be prepared for whatever scenario is going to present itself. Okay? So, like, they're either getting the first down and scoring, or they're not. So you need to preserve clock with your timeouts at that point. He chooses not to. They score. They tie the game. And because he let all that extra time roll off, they were down to like 30 fucking seconds to drive the field, which is just a travesty. And Tom Brady, not 2 games ago, let us under a minute full field drive to win the game versus the Rams, right? After leaving it's just ridiculous. Anyway, so he got grilled on that, understandably, and again, a great job by the Tampa Bay media, sports media in there who were giving him the gears. But then, so they get the ball back, they run the ball to Rachaad White, who gets stopped, and then they throw like a Tom Brady, an absolute dart of a pass to Julio Jones to put him at midfield. Unfortunately, at that point, there's like 6 seconds.
8 seconds.
8 seconds.
8 seconds.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The point is, he wasn't using his timeouts. He cost his team a chance to not go to overtime. And I want to bring it back to this goddamn fucking press conference where he somehow managed to make himself look way worse. The one time, like, all you could do here to endear yourself to anyone, and it wouldn't be everyone, but a few, you could get a bit of that pity respect, is to come out and just say, I fucked up.
Yeah.
In different words, I made a mistake. People admire that so much more than trying to double down with absurd excuses. And the 2 excuses he came up with for not using timeouts were he wanted to play for overtime. He thought it was going to overtime at that point. Well, that makes fucking sense. What? And then he also alluded to being scared of throwing an interception, which doesn't make sense on 2 levels. First of all, it's
just
Tom Brady. Yeah, well, fair enough.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding.
The 2 big ones. It's Tom Brady. Guy just is on a historical pace for taking care of the football. Okay, that's one. There was less than a 0.5% chance of Tom Brady throwing an interception based on his numbers this year alone. Okay, and then if you bring that in like 4th quarter, last minute drives, it's like even lower. So there's that, right? I'm sorry, but anyway, even if that was a reasonable excuse somehow, you threw the ball anyway. You let them throw the ball anyway.
Yeah, the last play was a throw. Like, what the
20-yard throw over the middle of the field. So which is it, Todd? Which is it?
Yeah, he looks like a guy who just can't take any accountability. Honestly, that's all it is. Like, if you were a petulant teenager, I think you could take more accountability than that. Like, it's insane to be like, yeah, well, Tom might throw an interception there. That's why I didn't call a timeout. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I can't even imagine getting that. I can't imagine getting that excuse, that level of excuse in that situation from a child, like from a kid.
Yeah, you'd be like, okay.
I'm like, well, yeah, I guess you've never been in this situation before. Here's how you take accountability. Like, have you never done this before? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
But in Bowles' defense seems like every coach is like that. Right?
Yeah.
Seems like every fucking coach is like that.
It's never their fault.
Never
Actually,
their
Jeff
fault.
Saturday. The lesson learned by Jeff Saturday, immediately just being like, yeah, man, I wish I had that one back.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff Saturday comes out somehow and has it just as inexplicable coaching decision, not using a timeout. That was absurd for anyone who watched it. On that last drive of the game, not using his timeouts, they lose the game.
Not just as absurd. Nothing was as absurd as this.
This was like Nathaniel Hackett level absurdity, but like in terms of like the situation with the Colts, like they clearly had a better shot at winning the game if he uses one timeout.
Yeah, I would say it was a more direct directly correlated to the immediate loss, not having
Loss.
they just
Yeah,
didn't have
immediate
enough
loss.
time. Like it was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Okay. Well,
But-
we can dive into that. I kind of disagree, but that's okay.
Well,
But the fourth down, the lack of the timeout on fourth down is just there's no they either score and you get the ball back with more time than or they don't score and you run the clock out. Like it's just insane. And what I was alluding to earlier, I think when I kind of threw it to Bo, it's just like it's a truth. The cover up might even be worse than the crime. And the crime was pretty fucking bad. You know what I mean? Like speaking about the press conference being the cover up, obviously it's like, man, say anything but that. And the response was basically incoherent. Like it wasn't even really a sentence, right? Or really an answer. And the Brady interception comment, obviously insane. No, that clock was ticking down. We're going to overtime. Like, what people make? Like Collin just said, you endear yourself so much more if you can just say, yeah, man, I that got on top of me or something like that. But nobody can do it, and it's so frustrating. And this league is full of it, and it's just unbelievable. Matt Rule came out today saying, Matt Rule came out today saying he had no say in who the quarterback was. I don't know. I follow a couple Panthers beat writers who was like, "Yeah, he is lying. He made this right. Like he's just straight up lying about it." He's coaching in college now. Like fuck.
He already has a new job.
Yeah,
still won't
for
take
millions of
accountability.
dollars. Like, and he still can't do it. So, oh my god, it's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah. Like there's no more hiding it. There's no more like for me personally anyway, being like, he's such a good defensive play caller. Yeah, it was a bad game. I'm kind of like pinning it all on Leftwich. Like, not to say I haven't been acknowledging Todd Bowles' deficiencies, but it's gotten to a point now where it's just so utterly ridiculous. He can't be ignored. And I don't know how it's going to be solved, but I know who can help us dig to the bottom
Is
of
that
it.
Quepo's music?
Yeah.
By God, that's Josh.
Yes. Welcome. Josh
Hey,
Quepo in the building from Pewter Report. Wrote a great article on a lot of exactly what we're talking about now, Josh. I don't know if you just jumped on or if you were listening at all to some heartfelt displeasure expressed in regards to this Buccaneers coaching staff, primarily the head coach Todd Bowles, and how awful of a performance this was. And I mean, lots went wrong, and you said it in your article, execution was part of it, but I mean, if you ask me, Todd Bowles cost his team a very important win against what should be considered an inferior opponent. And I'm not sure what else there is to not to take anything away from the Browns. Like Scott said, it was a hell of a play at the end of the game, but can't give them those chances. Handed them the W.
Yeah, I mean, he coached to not lose rather than he coached to win.
Whole season of that.
It seemed like he coached to tie more than anything. He was like, I don't want to lose or win.
So I would say, there's a lot of bad game management to go around in that game. Most people have latched on to inside the 2 minutes, not calling the timeout before the Browns were in their last play, not calling the timeout after the first down screen to Rachaad White. I take it all the way back to the 4th and 2 at the Cleveland 37. Yeah. That to me was the most egregious. So that would be coaching to not lose. And then the clock management in the two minutes, I mean, he said it in his presser. He was coaching for the overtime. So that's coaching to tie. All of it was just straight out of 1969.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Collin gave it too much credit with 1999, but yeah, that's what he cited earlier. Yeah, totally, Josh. 100% agree. The punt was ridiculous. And you know what? I was going over the game log after as well, and they punted 5 straight times before overtime after getting that 17-10 lead. You know what? So again, I guess maybe watching the game, I was like, okay, yeah, they got up a score kind of midway through the third. They probably gave the ball back a few times, but 5 times they got the ball back to try to make it a 2-score game and did absolutely dick on offense, running the ball into the ground again, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that hasn't been – I feel like that hasn't been brought up. I saw a few people bring it up on Twitter as much, but just because of the game mismanagement was so egregious and so glaring. But the fact that once again you can't get to this mythical number of 24 points on offense that would have foreseeably ended the game at any point in those next 5 possessions, right? It's
I'd
just
take 20.
Oh, hey, sure, yes, 20 would have done it. 20 would have done it. Yeah. So it's just they're so hard to watch.
I just about lost my mind in the post game presser. Bowles cited, I want to say they were in third down 16 times, right? And it was third and long 11 times. And he's like, yeah, we got to convert those. I'm like, you're out of your mind if your strategy is converting third and longs. What are we doing?
Game,
What are we doing here?
Well, Josh, not only are they finding themselves in the most third and longs, they're converting them at a historically horrible rate, like the worst of all time, I think, at least checking back a few games ago in terms of their third and long conversion rate, which makes it even more perplexing.
Yeah, I said this a little bit earlier tonight. In my mind, coaching at its core, when you were talking about game management and script and scheme, is giving your players the most margin for error you can.
100%.
The player's job is to try and perform as close to perfect as possible. But as a coach, you should try and give them as much leeway as possible. And this coaching staff is doing the exact opposite, right? Like, okay, I'm going back to 4th and 2 because that's the one that just sticks with me, right? And I absolutely can't stand when a coach goes, well, I trusted my defense. Bullshit.
Yeah.
You don't trust your defense if you're saying I need to punt and give them more yards to work with.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
It's cognitive dissonance. Like it does not make sense.
Yeah.
If you trust your defense, you should be willing to say, given 63 yards, right?
Yeah.
Let's say that the offense can't get a single fucking yard. I've got 63 yards to work with. You know what? I trust my defense. Okay,
Exactly.
that makes sense.
Exactly.
All right. And if you don't trust your offense, give them as many shots as possible, right?
Yeah.
Shotgun that approach, right? Just
Yeah.
we're going to fire as many shots as we can or as big of a spread as we can and see what sticks, right? So that drives me insane. And what he was doing in that situation with both his offense and his defense was giving them zero margin for error, right? So 4th down, I don't trust my offense to even try to get 2 yards. And I don't trust my defense. I got to give them as many yards as possible. So, and I'm telling them, you've got to maintain a 1-score lead. That's giving them little margin for error. Now you see why I said, let me in.
No. and you trust your defense. And that's such a great point. Because if you really trusted them, of course, then you go for it and say, all right, they're still not going to drive 63 yards on us. That's totally fair and dead on the money. But then it just goes back to those, all right, we're going to make our defense make 6 consecutive stops to end this game because we're not going to try to score anymore.
Yeah, we're not going to score any points for the last.
No, we're not going to score anymore. That's for sure. I mean, that's off the table. There's 6 minutes left in the third. We can't do that, right? So and if you're so old school or whatever that you think a defense can just last an entire game, that's not how it works. It's just not. Possession to possession, week to week, it's so hard to be that good on defense. And the defense did everything they could for the first 95% of that game, right? And it's just
and this defense, as fantastic as they've been all season, this has been the MO. The late 4th quarter allowing a score. Everybody goes back to, and I think you guys were just talking about it Saturday, right? In his press conference and the dichotomy between what he said and what Bowles said. I go back to a post-game press. It was like a locker room situation. The Jaguars game. You guys caught the end of the Jaguars game?
Oh yeah.
Against Baltimore. They had the safety for the Jaguars. I'm trying to remember his name.
Right.
Andrew Wingard, right?
Nice job. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What he said, like that's a dude who's like, my head coach trusts my offense. They trust my defense. So he was on cloud 9 about the fact that Doug Peterson's like, we're going for 2. We're going to win or we're going to lose right here, right? We're not going for the tie. And the analytics community would say that's probably the case because the Jaguars are probably a worse team than Baltimore. So you don't want to go to overtime where now the probabilities are that you're going to lose because you're the worst team. You go for the win when you have the opportunity. But just seeing how pumped he was about his coach saying, we've got ballers, we can win this here. Like, that's what you want to see, right? And you see it with Harbaugh and the Ravens, right? Remember last year where he's like, Lamar, you want to go for this?
You want to go for
He's
this?
like, he's like, yeah. And he's like, let's do it, right? Those are the coaches whose teams run through walls for them.
Yeah. And Doug Peterson, I think the OG of that, asking your quarterback, at least when they're mic'd up, was in that Super Bowl, right?
Philly special.
Philly special.
Yeah,
so,
Philly special. Yeah.
And like much to Scott's pleasure, if he had missed that interview by Wingard, he started it off by bringing Urban Meyer under the bus too. Before
that's right.
Before
what a weekend.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence didn't have a rookie season. He had to deal with Urban Meyer.
Yeah, that was it. So Scott's got the Wingard jersey on order. He's priority delivery from UPS on the way.
Yeah, no shit.
Ohio State wants him back.
Now, Josh, you missed, but I had to give some flowers to your boss, SR, because I thought he came out swinging in that presser, man.
He goes hard in the paint.
He was not scared. He was going hard in the paint, and I appreciated it, man. And boy, did he get some underwhelming answers. I mean, unbelievable how Todd Bowles decided to address that. I mean, being honest about making mistakes, I think, is the only option at endearing yourself to anyone, which I said, earlier, but just for your sake, Josh. And for him to not do that and double down with such absurd, illogical reasons or supposed, like,
got a theory on that.
Yeah, let me hear it, man. Please.
I think I can understand where Bowles was coming from when he said, I was afraid, what if Brady throws an interception? All right. So this is one of those like Charlie Day on the whiteboard trying to connect 10,000 things. Earlier this year, Bowles said that some people were living in the Super Bowl, right? They were still living off of that. I think he's still living in 2019 because if you go back to 2019, there's a real concern that your quarterback's going to throw an interception.
Yeah. Jameis Winston.
But that's what it is.
He doesn't look anything like Brady.
Who his quarterback was.
He kind of looks like
I'm
Brady.
afraid Jameis is going to throw 30 interceptions in the last minute of the game, and we're going to lose.
Well,
now it's
I wish he was like, I can't put the ball in Jameis's hands in that situation.
If he would have said that, then totally worth it. The whole season would be.
Oh my God!
If Bull said, "Listen, I just don't trust Jameis out there,"
we'd be like, he has a head injury.
Endearing. I could have that tattooed on my back. Honestly, I would have been so happy.
So and then you tie that back to Devin week 2 after the game. Hey, we knew Jameis was going to give us the ball. Now it comes full circle. There's my conspiracy theory.
I get it, but does he not know that he has Tom Brady? Like, does anyone ask him? Like,
I don't think that enters his mind. I don't think
so either.
Considers who the quarterback is. I'm not going to try and make excuses, but the defensible position is my offense has struggled all year. Why should I trust them? Right. And if you look under the hood of that, your offense can be a lot better. It just can. Yeah. And your management style or your offensive coordinator's schematic style is holding that offense back.
Just slightly.
Do you have the stat on the play action stuff, Josh? Like,
I have it.
They're like last they're like overwhelmingly last.
Yeah,
it's calling plays, but
they're top 5 in production. Yeah, I saw that today too.
What?
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of the neutral first down stuff. When they pass on a neutral first down situation, they're like top 5 in the league, and then when they run, they're 29th. Just to be more specific, because I know some of these first down run pass numbers aren't being offered in context fully. And I Josh, I saw you go at the GOAT Greg Allman.
Oh yeah. So I'll give you guys a little behind the scenes on that one. So Greg Allman addressing a fan's or a Twitter follower's question about first down runs versus first down passes. He went with just kind of he just gave, this is the number of first down runs, it's the number of first down passes, which puts the Bucs kind of right in the middle of the league. I got frustrated by that, and I just said, look, I'm begging you to give some context. Let's go neutral situations, right? So that is where you're not in a 2-minute offense, because in a 2-minute offense, you're going to pass, right, almost exclusively, skews the numbers. And in when one team is not an 80% favorite to win the game, right, based on the score and the time left in the game. And when you control for those things, the Bucs fall below the average in terms of first down pass rate. And what makes that so egregious, it's not just the fact that, okay, they're a little bit below average. It's that when you look at the efficiency of them passing on first down, they're like 6th in the league.
Yeah.
And when you look at the efficiency of running on first down, they're like 31st. Okay. So all of this together would show you that if you are around 16th in the league, as 14th or 16th in neutral situation, first down pass rate, then you're not maximizing your offense, right? You're not doing what would lead to more success.
Yeah.
So I was going back and forth with John Ledyard and Paul Atwall, and they had slightly different numbers. So John had them at like 14th or 16th. And I think he got it from Ben Baldwin, who's a great follow on Twitter. Really does a lot of great stuff with NFLR data. And Paul had the Bucs at 18th, right? And they were trying to figure out why they had the numbers different. And John goes, oh, I only asked Ben to pull 1st and 10. Paul, you're doing all first downs. And Paul's like, oh, that's exactly it. He goes, which means that when the Bucs are at 1st and more than 10, 1st and 15 or 1st and 20, they run the ball even more.
Yeah.
It's 29th in the league in 1st and more than 10 neutral pass rate. So when Byron Leftwich says we have more than 10 yards we have to get, this is where we should run the ball.
Let me get a little bit more room for my kicker, is all he's saying.
Oh my God.
What a concoction between Bowles and Leftwich in their performance this year. I mean, based on the roster that Jason Light's given them to work with, I don't know, like, is this worst case scenario? Like, did anyone envision it being this bad if it went wrong? Like, it's kind of hard to believe. And it's even more hard to believe that they're still in first in the NFC South. So it's all been just a weird dream for me, and I think for many Bucs fans, and hard to diagnose. And we're just constantly working our way through what the is going on.
So I will give you a small tidbit into maybe Jason Light's culpability here. If you look at roster turnover from the 2020 season to now, the two teams that have the least amount of turnover in the NFL are the Green Bay Packers and the Tampa Bay Bucs. Generally, roster turnover is good for maintaining a good team. The Bucs famously did the run it back in 2021, where they brought back, I think, everybody except the backup safety whose name is escaping.
But it literally might have been all 22 starters, though, wasn't
it?
Or 21? Yeah, it was something. Yeah.
Yep. And so when you look at it kind of under a microscope, you say these are all really great players. Why wouldn't we want them back? In general, when you look at macro trends, roster stagnation typically leads to worse results. And the Bucs and the Packers are both living that reality this year. Now, I can't point to, hey, these are holdovers from previous years that are holding the team back. I still firmly believe that this coaching staff is specifically the offensive schematics, and then this one game's egregious game management is preventing the team from really unlocking what they could be, which is they easily should be 7 and 4 rather than 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Josh, that's solid to bring up for sure. I think in the case of the Bucs though, like, there were no complaints with this roster. In fact, I was jazzed about this roster. I think Light did a hell of a job. I think he brought back the guys he's bringing back are Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Ryan Jensen and all these important guys. So I really don't think that applies to them in this case. I mean, I could certainly make some complaints on the Packers' behalf, not adding some weapons on the outside. But So anyway, generally I would agree, like the turnover would make sense, but I do think that's not a fair place to place any blame in this particular case. I'm with you. I think a disproportionate amount of the blame needs to go to the coaches, and I think that's just inevitable with what we're seeing on the field.
Josh, you're still muted.
Sorry, I mute to cough because I'm
no worries.
I agree with you, Colin, in terms of, and like I said, nobody looked at this and said, oh, they're not turning guys over, this is a bad thing. I would even argue that Light learned from 2021. You don't see JPP on this team. You don't see Ndamukong Suh on this team. He saw the run it back method didn't work, and he was making very strategic changes. I just think it's a very interesting point that's not brought up enough. It's a guy from PFF who brought it to my attention. His Twitter handle is PFF Moo. I have no clue what his name is, but
he's a mathematician.
Really smart dude. Although he's also the guy who said that the Bucs should trade Tristan Wirfs, so not 100%.
Okay, I'm gonna kill him.
Colin, PFF, PFF Moo. I heard he's really into accounting. Come on, not bad off the top. But if he's trading Tristan Wirfs, he can get the fuck out of here. Dude, that's really interesting from the roster turnover standpoint, though. Like that's just a interesting kind of
you wouldn't expect that
trend. I don't know. To me, it just proves how hard the league is as well, and that puts even more of an emphasis on the teams who have a coach with a pulse. Like, look what Mike McDaniel's done for Miami this year, right? Just as an example of getting the most out of his team. And the Jags record doesn't reflect it, but I think their point differential
been
in every game would certainly lend you to think that Doug Peterson has done a good job there. It's just the rosters.
Pythagorean win expectancy is like 10th or 11th in the league.
Yeah, there you go, right? And they're only, I think they're four. Yeah, so it's just with the roster, the players are so good, the rosters are so good. We've seen, I should have pulled this up, but the percentage of games that are decided within one score is as high as it's ever been, I believe, in the NFL through this amount of weeks. It's just such a slim margin for error. So when the coach fucks up as royally as they did this game and just how they have in general, it just puts you so behind the eight ball. Now, like Colin alluded to, they're in this division, which means they can somehow host a playoff game, which is insane. And that doesn't justify any of this, but it does at least provide some sort of rope, a carrot at the end of all this. I don't even know what to think anymore.
Are you guys with me now that they're not going to be favored in that playoff game if they get there?
It depends on the matchup. It very much depends on the matchup. Bo, I'll give it to you.
Are you guys going to bet? Are you guys going to bet on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a playoff game right now?
It depends on the matchup.
My God!
So, all right, Bo. Let me ask you. So let's pose some hypotheticals. So right now they would be, I want to say, the 7th seed, but if they move up to the, what would that?
No, they'd be the 4th seed.
No. I'm talking about a potential opponent.
Oh, yeah.
So if this particular opponent ends up being being the 5, no, I was gonna say Seattle.
Sorry.
Seattle.
So if Seattle has to travel 3,000 miles
to
play in the Eastern time zone against the Bucs, who the Bucs just had a solid game against Seattle, you don't think the Bucs are going to be favored in that game? And
they're going to be. Yes,
you want to put money on the money line?
Yeah,
give me Gino. Give me Gino. I'm riding.
All right,
man. I don't know.
Washington's another great example of a team that I would say the Bucs are favored against. Now, if
couldn't that also be Dallas?
It very much could be. It's probably going to be Dallas because
Dallas is favored.
Not going to chase down Philly.
Yeah, so Dallas is favored at Tampa in that game. It's a field goal at the most, though.
But that's the amazing thing about what should give Bucs fans hope is that they can potentially turn this on. The pieces are all there.
But how many more?
They
weeks,
beat Dallas
Josh?
In Dallas. They thwarted Dallas. They knocked the shit out of Dak. All right.
There's not another team in the NFL that you would have faith in right now if they had the exact same performance that the Bucs have had.
Well, they have Tom Brady at quarterback still.
I know. They have Tom Brady at quarterback. I get it. But I'm just saying what we've seen from this team and their ability to manage a game.
No doubt.
Like, should be tattooed on your forehead fraud. Like, that is like fraud behavior week in and week out.
But that's why it's so frustrating, because it's like, yes, clearly if they do things right for the first time all year, then it can be turned around. But it's like, when do they not? It's like the 10 seed that I've been high on in every season leading into the NCAA tournament. Okay, right. Yeah, they lost in their first they lost in the first round of their conference tournament again. But if everything falls right, they can make a run to the Elite Eight. They lose by 20,
if Duke is that 10 seed.
I will be Mr. Silver Linings. All right, you ready? I'm going to give you 2 examples. So New Orleans in the playoffs, 2020, and then the Chiefs game plan, right? Yeah. Todd Bowles went against everything he's ever known and loved as a defensive coordinator and a schemer in that Kansas City game. He ran a ton of cover 2 and quarters, 4-man pass rush. He didn't blitz that much, and it was probably an all-time great game plan against Patrick Mahomes, right? And so many people were saying the following year, like, Todd Bowles broke Mahomes because everybody started running 2-eye shells, and he was struggling with it relatively. He was still Pat Mahomes, right? It was one game, change in everything that he does, but he's shown he can do that.
And as a coordinator,
okay, yes,
as a coordinator,
sure, but he's still calling the defense. And on the other side of the ball, like, fair enough, Scott. He hasn't shown it as head coach. I'll give you that. But on the other side of the ball, that season, following that Chicago game, coming off the bye, Byron Leftwich turned it around too, Josh. Big time that year.
No doubt. And that's my biggest concern. He's coming off the bye after the Seattle game. I was hoping for a hell of a lot more than what Byron showed against Cleveland.
No kidding. No kidding. It's been really, really ugly. And I can't even talk about Byron Leftwich anymore. Everyone feels the same way. It's not even a subjective thing anymore.
It's not even like it's week 8. You know what I mean? Like, it's really been there's been a lot of games they've played now, right? They're 5-7, and it's just
5-6.
We haven't 5-6. Sorry.
Yeah.
We just haven't seen.
Already giving them the L for New Orleans.
I know. I'm already getting ready for the Monday nighter.
Well, this is gonna be a tough one to preview.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I hope it happens. And that is encouraging that we've seen Bowles and Leftwich adapt. But the way they've handled press conferences, the game-to-game lack of change we've seen for the first 3 months of the season is just so discouraging. And I do. Last week I said they could turn it around when we discussed it. I thought that they could get hot, maybe get to 10 wins, host a playoff game, and then you're playing Tom Brady in the second round of the playoffs, whoever, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, the Vikings or something, let's say, right? I don't mind the Bucs if they're in that matchup, if they're clicking on all cylinders. But this game was like, and I know it's just one data point out of 17 games, but it was just so egregious. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to overreact, but it's just a tough one to bounce back from, and to actually see how poorly it was, to see how poorly it was handled during the game. And I know we've discussed this, but afterwards in the press conference is just so, I don't know, just so illuminating in a bad way.
Right. But there are, like Josh has said, though, there is time to change. So, like, all we can do is look forward, and not to say what you're saying doesn't matter, but they have games against the Falcons, they have games against the Panthers coming up. They're playing the Saints. They only need 3 wins, according to Josh's boy here, PFF Moo. They only need 3 wins to then have a 76% chance of making the postseason. So, like, they're in great shape to make the playoffs. And what you guys are talking about, well, what we've seen doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it's possible. It looks like a tall task. This NFC is so wide open this year, if you ask me. Like, I know a couple teams have looked fantastic. Okay, but the NFC is still very wide open compared to previous years. And
I know, I agree. Yeah. I can't quit. I don't want to quit them.
Yeah.
I don't like
No,
it. hate
I'm
this.
I'm out though. There will be no more. You're not taking any more gifts off my kids' Christmas list this year. That's enough.
Fair
Yeah.
That Mike Evans over is gonna fucking haunt me all day, especially after I see the Quepo tweet that he's just like, yeah, Brady doesn't like him anymore. Like, what's going on?
No. The targets are up. The
No,
problem is
Josh,
they're not
those are your
connecting.
exact words.
You're right.
They're not connecting. I said that the connection is broken, but not that he's not trying.
Yeah.
The I want to say the last 5 games he's targeted Mike more than the first 5 games. Problem is they're not connecting as much.
They will.
The misses have been like in some of the worst possible spots.
I think because you had the clear delineation mark of the Panthers game, and I was just like, oh yeah, what happened during the Panthers game? Like Mike Evans just like body switched with me or something, like in a Freaky Friday situation, and just couldn't catch the ball. Like
It was a shitty Sunday, Bo.
Yeah.
Instead of a Freaky Friday.
seriously, and like I've been catching everything. My kid's throwing shit at me. I'm like,
Yeah.
Beckham.
It's
Hands.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it's talking about that relationship being broken and talking about Mike Evans, like
You talking about Bo and his son?
is
Yeah.
is instant replay broken? Like, what were the officials doing not looking at that sideline catch by Evans? That was an incredible catch, and
That really was.
the replay, I think it was good, at the very least worth reviewing, but I think it was good enough to overturn it, the call on the field. I tweeted it out right at the time. As soon as I saw the replay, I said, why isn't that getting looked at? And we can't blame that one on Bowles because that one goes upstairs. So NFL officials let him down there. That was would have been a big play in the game.
And and all of this happened, and we're talking about this one game, right? And we've discussed that Njoku makes the miracle catch. What a great catch. And then they win the toss in overtime. Of course, right?
Yeah, of
course they win the toss. And then they get the ball back another time, like the second time in overtime. And they still, it was just in the stars. It was in the stars. And like as Josh mentioned, the punt. You don't want to say it comes down to one thing too often, but I had a sick feeling in my stomach. Full disclosure, I also laid the 3 with the Bucs in the game, so I was even slightly more invested than usual. But as soon as they did that, it was just, oh my God, man. Like, I thought the defense was going to have to score for them to win the game, basically.
Yeah.
Because they were going to play not to on offense. And I thought a tip pass at the line, and who knows, maybe
fumble.
White. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. It's just.
Okay, boys, that's 52 minutes, almost 52 and a half minutes talking about the Bucs coaching staff.
All right, so we're halfway through. Well,
There you go. I love it.
Yeah. So I want to shift gears because the other unfortunate result of going to overtime, just like Todd Bowles aspired to do, apparently, we lose maybe the second most important player on our offense in Tristan Wirfs. What looked like a terrible injury that I didn't even get to see, like the proper replay. They said it was too gnarly to show.
It wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't. But
Jonathan Vilma's
tough luck for him that day, eh?
He's
you guys don't have any animosity towards Jonathan Vilma.
I very much disagree with almost everything that he said on that broadcast.
It was bad.
It wasn't that like egregious of a there wasn't bone sticking out or anything like that. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah comes in on a blitz, decides that he wants to leap into Keyshawn Vaughn's arms like they're,
as we all
long lost lovers. Keyshawn said, "I'm not about that life, bro," and throws him, right?
Yeah.
And he just happens to land on the back of Tristan's leg. Like, it was not like this, oh my gosh, like Dak Prescott leg a couple years ago.
Yes, it wasn't gruesome. I think the assumption was because Wirfs was carted off that it must have been bad, like just the impact that's going to be generated, even if he is a light, speedy linebacker. Like, but Tristan Wirfs has literal tree trunks for legs, and it's a high ankle sprain, and he's out for a matter of weeks. That's dodging a bullet, but I want to know how the Bucs are going to survive, because Donovan Smith, a guy who I was so pumped up when he came off that elbow injury and was back when this offensive line needed him, because he was so solid the last couple seasons. He's been one of the most criticized Buccaneers like ever over the course of his career. When he was drafted, like, he's been a punching bag, oftentimes deserved. He's really regressing of late.
Yeah,
Josh,
drive killer on Sunday.
like the penalties. I feel like he's drawn 7 flags on his own in the last 3 games. I don't know. But anyway, now Tristan Wirfs is out, so you and me are going to get into another Josh Wells discussion here. Josh, was that right? Was that you who was defending Josh Wells? And
I said that he didn't play that terribly, not that he didn't play terribly in the Rams game, but that he was playing on one leg, and he played admirably for the situation. The only saving grace for Wells, and I'm taking it week by week with him, is, and I have no clue where they're stand right now because everything's a day behind since it's a Monday night, so we didn't get a official injury report from the Saints. But the Saints edge rushers have been like super, super injured. I want to say at one point, it wasn't last week or 2 weeks ago, Peyton Turner, Marcus Davenport, and Cam Jordan were all out. So if that continues to be the case, Josh Wells has a puncher's chance. If Jordan is back, because Jordan typically rushes from the left side, which means he'll be lined up against Wells on the right. I don't like Wells' chances against Cam Jordan, even though Cam Jordan's starting to see the decline in his career.
Yeah, he's taking a step back for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, like I don't know. I think I was on Boom's side. I remember when Josh Wells checked into that game, and the first few reps texting Boom like, I don't know about this. This doesn't seem normal. This doesn't seem like what I'm accustomed to seeing from that right side of the line.
Well, that's because you just take that for granted.
Yeah,
and
you totally
Tristan
do.
Wirfs is you just take him for granted. Like
Yeah.
that's fine. I don't care what's over there. It could be both the Bosa brothers. That's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But he's no Andrew Thomas because he plays on the right side. Good
Oh,
I
God.
had your
yeah.
back on that one.
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Yeah.
Come
That was
on.
a good one, though. That was a
I
good
saw
back
that
and
one,
forth.
and I saw it get handled fairly quickly. So I was like,
Yeah.
this
You
is
You got to get into a back alley with your boy JQ once in a while, you know?
No kidding.
no
No
doubt.
shit.
You know he's going to have your back.
I just said objective people would say Tristan Wirfs is on a different planet right now.
Yeah.
yeah.
No sh-
And he's at a different position. So, like,
Yeah.
What did you guys think of Rashad White on Sunday?
I was pleased. I thought he looked good personally.
Yeah, me too.
Started off with a bang. I mean, obviously the Bucs, the way their game plan came, it's kind of super hard to like understand what they're doing and how they mix the run and the pass. Feels like they have no idea what they're doing. But regardless, I thought he looked way more spry than what we've seen from Fournette and capable of having a really effective run game. I was all over his receiving props. If we're talking betting, like I was over the yards, receptions, and he blew that out of the water. I think he had nine catches. So
Yeah.
it was nice to see him get involved in that element as well, because of course that's it, as we've talked about, that's what was his greatest skill coming into the league. But I've been impressed with him as a runner, to be quite honest with you.
Me too. I think he's really good, man. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like that's basically, I think he's legitimately a potential RB1 on a good team. The dynamic of catching the ball out of the backfield is just so huge, and especially for a guy like Brady who gets to his check down when he needs to have somebody you can trust, like kind of a James White type in New England, but also, you know, when there is a hole, feels like White can maximize a run. I think he's what a nice draft pick. Honestly, like just a nice
seems
pick.
like they nailed
And
that one. Yeah, it's like exactly for what this scheme is and what they want to do on offense. Like it seems like that's the guy you want back there.
Yeah,
He's a much better fit than Lenny for a lot of what the Bucs like
Yes.
to do in terms of duo and inside zone, because his vision, in my opinion, is a hell of a lot better. He finds the right holes and he can hit them at the right time. The field did him in on a few of
and
those
he can make
plays
someone
in
miss
Cleveland.
too.
Absolutely. The field
Yeah.
did him in a little bit on some of those plays in Cleveland. Obviously, the field conditions weren't great, but I do remember there were at least two that stand out in my mind. I think one was a catch, one was a run, where he actively slipped, and it prevented him from picking up at least 4 to 5 extra yards over what he would what he would have gotten. So I'm excited to see what he does on Ray J turf, because I think it'll be a much better field conditions for him. And I've been calling for him to be RB1 since like week 4.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah.
You have. Absolutely. You've done it on this show a couple times. And I was like,
Yep.
slow your roll.
And that's as a guy who was out on him in the draft. Like, I will readily take my L on that. I had him as a 7th rounder. And the reason, like, I loved everything in his game, except one thing that I thought was going to get him killed, which he had a propensity when he was in the open field to, and this was at Arizona State, when he was in the open field and somebody was coming up to just make like a open field tackle, he'd just jump in the air. Just like that was like a
trying to hurdle.
Yeah, and I'm like, he's gonna die. Like, you do that in the NFL, somebody's gonna Keyshawn Vaughn you, right? Like,
or somebody's gonna fall on Tristan Wirf.
Exactly. Toss you
exactly.
right into Tristan Wirf's back, the back of his leg.
Yeah.
So for that reason, like, I dropped him way down my board, and I will readily take that loss. He's looked fantastic since then.
Josh's board, cause for concern, dead. Rashad White might die.
But like all forward-thinking, logical, reasonable-minded individuals, Josh Quepo is able to navigate off of his initial plan, or unlike the Buccaneers coaching staff. And we appreciate you for that, Josh. So thank you for jumping on. JQ, it's always a pleasure to have you, man. I love that you made some time and wanted to be in here. Make sure you're checking Josh's workout at Pewter Report. Follow him on Twitter at Josh_Quepo, as the name is spelled on the screen, I believe. And give us all a follow while you're at it. Make sure you are subscribed to the Bucs Banter podcast on YouTube. Check out BucsGameDay.com for continued written coverage of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We had more we wanted to talk about tonight, but there was just too much coaching. That was too cowardly. No coaching.
Yeah,
conversation about no coaching.
Too many coaching issues.
Yeah. So we had to talk about it even more. And I hope it's the last episode. We have to dedicate so much damn time to talk about cowardly coaching and the catastrophe that ensued because of it. We're on to New Orleans in Tampa Bay, Monday Night Football. Let's see if the Bucs can make a statement in the division and against a team that's had their number for some time.
Yeah, don't worry. They've only had super normal games with New Orleans lately, so that's a nice one to come off of the Browns loss. And God,
pretty much. On that note, be well, everyone. Go Bucs. Keep your heads up. Peace out.